Welcome to the American Grown Podcast, hosted by Austin Sullivan. The American Grown Podcast will focus on people from different walks of life and their journey to where they are now. Now, turn up your volume and settle in for a great episode.
Hi, I'm Austin Sullivan. This is the American Grown Podcast, recorded inside the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Today we have Mike Ventola. He is a media relations manager and professional sports broadcaster for the Lehigh Valley IronPigs. Mikey V, welcome to episode 23 of the American Grown Podcast.
It is absolutely exciting to be with you here, Sully. It's just bringing back a lot of cool memories right now from our time together with the Reading Fightin Phils. Thank you so much for having me, and just great kind of being back here in Lebanon, where I got a chance to experience a little bit during my time with the Phils.
I really appreciate you making the trip. Roughly, an hour and a half from
Allentown?
Yeah,
about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And but right across 78, I came down then. I got off exit. I think exit 8.
Yeah.
And then you get on 22 for a little bit, and then I got on State Road 343 and took it right into town.
Okay.
Beautiful, the scenery. It is drop dead gorgeous.
A lot of farms.
Especially with the sun setting, not to sound corny.
No,
but it was awesome.
Well, no, thank you.
Really awesome.
Thanks for coming. I'll make sure to, when you leave, I'll hook you up with some the world famous Shoey's pretzels.
Yes.
I figured you'd remember those from your time at the Fightins. So I look back at the form. You were actually the third person to fill out the form almost a year ago, back in February of last year. So this has been like a long time coming.
It has been.
It really has. For the listeners out there, Mikey and I met at the Reading Fightin Phils back in 2017.
Yep.
I was a photographer here at Blue Cardinal Photography, looking to, kind of push my limits and see what I could do. And I wanted to photograph some professional sports, especially baseball, kind of get to that next level. We have a mutual friend, Ryan Springborn.
Springy.
Shout out to Springy and the gang there, Nelly and Pigs, all those guys.
Yeah, and it was funny because it was an interesting time for me because after the 2016 season, I was transitioning from just being the lead radio announcer for the Fightin Phils and then also getting taken on full-time to oversee the public and media relations and kind of just be like not just a voice for the team, but also kind of be a face as well too. So many different aspects to the role. And I know with Ryan Springborn at the time, with his relationship with you and your dad and everybody here at Colortech, knowing that you guys were eventually going to become the program, supplier essentially, laying out the program, and getting it printed for our fans. But then, I think it was through Ryan saying, hey, Sully, and some of the guys at Blue Cardinal, which work closely with Colortech, take pictures. So, and that was just good enough for me. I think the only thing I felt bad was I couldn't pay you I paid you the best I could, but you know what? You and George Youngs and the two of you just coming on in and taking the bull by the horns, and George is having the time of his life over there, man.
Yeah, he is. I think he lives there sometimes. Him and his wife Betsy, and for me, and I think George would agree, it wasn't about the money. It was the experience. It was the time, and it was fun. It's what we like to do. Sports photography. Now, of course, since 2020, COVID hit. And at least my story with the Reading Fightin Phils, still in touch with them, still doing the print work. Now the game day programs have kind of been put on hold for an online version, which sorry, Springy and guys, I know you have no control.
We're doing the same thing with the IronPigs.
Are you guys?
Yeah,
okay. It's tough because I feel like a lot of the fans really look forward to that.
It's a cost-cutting situation. I'll be blunt here. I know I'm technically off the clock, and forgive me, Kurt Landis, my president and GM, and as well as Scott Hunsinger, two of the best minor league GMs
guys.
I ever worked for in my life. But I feel like when it comes to the game programs, it's cool to kind of see fans have it in hand. But nowadays, everybody's on their phone. They can look it on their phone. So I get both sides.
Yeah, true. And like I said, COVID, obviously there wasn't a season in 2020. And then 2021, I kind of stepped back. And George, like you said, is just growing there and loving it. And my wife and I, you might know, just had a baby girl.
Yes.
Parker. So whatever free time I had is now work, and and being at home with the baby.
Which is beautiful. I mean, you and Courtney, great people, and obviously for Parker, going to be growing up in a beautiful home. So congratulations to you guys, and and to your listeners too that listen, know you, know your dad, know the company, and know everything. You're great people, and that's why I'll say it again. That's why I was telling people coming into talking with you, like, why go? I said there are certain people in life that you get to meet, you don't get to see often, but they invite you back in their lives for whatever reason. You take advantage of it. So for me, this was a golden opportunity to come and just talk with a guy that I really enjoyed working with during my time with the Phils, and got a chance to know and plus too, kind of get in the car and just think my thoughts driving out this way too. It's nice, man. I've been to Pottsville. I drive to Pottsville from time to time near Cabela's and whatnot.
Yeah.
One of my best friends from college lives in Enola, just outside of Harrisburg. So I like driving down this end of Interstate 78. So it's always nice with the scenery coming down this way.
One last thing before we really start to jump into it, and I'll tell my story, and then I want to get your story, because on the forum to be on the podcast for the listeners, and anyone could be on, anyone could be a guest. I truly believe everyone has a story to tell, whether you don't have to be a business owner, but whether you're a business owner, nonprofit, friend, veteran, police officer, firefighter, whatever it is, American Grown Podcast is always open and willing to have you come on. You just have to fill out a form, and then on the form, we actually share a similar fear, which I'll be honest, probably the one thing I'm the most scared of is roller coasters.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I'm just terrified of them. And there's actually a poster over there on the side of Disney. It was the Mount Everest, and you can see my wife and I there, and I'm yelling. So where it started for me, and then I want to get your take on it, was at Hershey Park. My dad took me. I was young, maybe, 8, 9. I've always been a bigger guy. So even though I was a bigger guy, I was young at age, but big, you know what I mean? Big kid. And it was the Wildcat. Yes, the wooden roller coaster Wildcat. And there's a picture somewhere that he has. It's one of those keychain pictures, because, they always sell them there at the end. And I am just yelling, freaking out, sliding under the rail. My dad's laughing, having the time of his life. And I think that's what did it for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, you are braver than I.
Okay.
See, I have only been on a couple of coasters in my life. See, apologize if I'm a little long-winded here. So
No.
My parents made a decision years ago. My parents have been together 43 years, married 39, and I have an older brother and a younger sister. They made a choice years ago. They felt like their kids were either going to be Disney World kids or Jersey Shore kids.
Okay.
We were Disney World kids. So my parents, they have a summer home just 8 miles away from Disney World outside of Orlando. They got a place back in 95, and we've been there ever since. Been fortunate enough, blessed enough that my older brother, my sister, and I grew up going to Walt Disney World. And then when we got a little older, started going to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure and all that good stuff. So I have a terrible fear of heights.
Okay.
It's really bad. Not in the sense where I will break down and shake back and forth and cry in a corner.
Yeah.
But I just shut down. You would see me be like, Mike's not right. I won't yell or scream or cry, but I'll just shut down as a human being. And because for folks who don't know me, I'm a very energetic person.
Oh, yeah.
I am 100 miles an hour.
You got energy. Yeah.
And so going to, the Magic Kingdom, you had Space Mountain. And I just never went on because one was in the dark. Not that my parents used to say, "Oh God, you don't go in your head." I go, "I want to see where I'm going."
Yeah.
And then getting a little older too, going near Dorney Park by me in the Lehigh Valley. I just look at them now, and my heart just goes
It beats a little quicker.
A little quicker. So I can't do it. So, but the ironic thing is, I have been on per se some roller coasters, but nothing to the effect of what a true roller coaster is, where you can do big dips or whatnot. It literally took me to go on my first coaster. I won't even call it a full-blown roller coaster. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Magic Kingdom. It's right next to Splash Mountain.
Yep.
And my best friend growing up sadly passed away when I was 11. He was 12. He had glioblastoma.
Okay.
Terrible diagnosis. For those who don't know, it's brain cancer. And he, part of Make-A-Wish was he wanted to go to Walt Disney World and go to Universal Studios.
Awesome, yeah.
And being we were best friends, his family said, we want the Ventolas to come along. So we all went, and it literally took my best friend, who was dying.
Yeah.
And he went on the coaster. It took me to get enough courage to go on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And for those of you who've been to Magic Kingdom, it's a great coaster. I've gone on it now because it's fast, but it doesn't go on your head. But like,
right.
anything that is like 1,000,000 miles high, dips, drops,
Yep.
upside down,
Yep.
forget about it.
Loop-de-loops.
People said, and I'm sure this has been told you a few times.
Yeah.
Like, Sully, would you go on it for like $1 million?
No.
Nah, the money's not worth the
Right.
money.
No.
10 million?
Yeah.
100 mil? Let me get drunk and high, and then I'll go on.
Let me get a couple bourbons in me, a couple proper 12s.
Exactly.
Yeah, then I'll think about it. But yeah, wow. So dude, I just thought that was something because a lot of my buddies would be like, "Oh yeah, let's go Hershey Park, get in the roller coasters." Even now,
Right.
my father would be like, "Come on, get on, you wuss," and I'm like that. And he loves me. Don't get me wrong, for the listeners out there. But it's a little razzle kind of thing. And my wife, she likes them too, and just can't do it. Like Hershey, they have a new one. I forget the name. It's a Reese's something, I think, but. For the Reese's Cups, but literally it's just that straight drop.
No, thank you.
No, I can't do it. I can't. Yeah.
It's for me, I tell people, I go, you want to take me to any sort of amusement park because I'm a good bag holder. I said I'm 34 now, so I'm going to be 35 in April. Like I'm at the point where I don't have to be embarrassed anymore. Like, okay, I don't go on, but I go on all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that's a roller coaster. Forget about it. I can't be bothered with it.
I like that. I'll have to use that excuse. Hey, honey, I'll hold your bag. I'll hold
exactly.
the bag.
I'll hold the purse.
Yeah.
I've held many a purse in my day, and people look at me. I go, I don't care. Whatever.
Right. So let me ask you this: being like a Disney family, I find that interesting. Have you ever gone on two questions now? I'm thinking about it. So there's the Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yes.
Have you gone on that one?
Nope.
Nope.
My family almost got me on it.
Almost tricked you?
Until I overheard that you shoot like 65 miles an hour into a loop. Then I said, nope, forget about it. I'm out.
See, okay. And hopefully the listeners don't get bored of this, but I got to tell you, I was tricked on that ride with my father. This was back 2012. The family went down for Disney, to Disney, 2011, 2012. And Rock and Roller Coaster. I knew it went fast. And he's like, don't worry, it'll be fun, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was terrifying. And I just remember like screaming. They have music blaring in your ears. Aerosmith, I think.
Aerosmith, yeah.
Yep. So I was just singing along to that, eyes closed the whole time. I didn't look at anything. So I don't even know what the inside looks like. And I think they're tearing it down soon for a Marvel ride, I think, or something.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, something's happening. So, okay, well, good. You didn't have to experience that trauma. But how about Tower of Terror? Because that goes up high and drops you.
See, that one, I muster a little bit more courage because... At that point, yes, the drops annoy me, and I get that front because I hate losing my stomach. But I guess in that you're not going super fast. Like you're literally sitting in a cart. They move you around. You go room to room. Then all of a sudden you go up.
Yeah,
you go down.
Yeah, it's not as bad,
and it's indoors.
Yeah,
like so that doesn't bother me. I know they open up the doors when you're up top and you like see all of the Hollywood studios at that point. But I just close my eyes and I'm like,
exactly.
Gotcha. So I can muster enough courage for that, but no, when it comes to the Rock and Roller Coaster, forget about it. The closest I get onto a coaster now,
okay,
for you Harry Potter fans out there, I'm a Harry Potter goober.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
At Universal Studios, they have it because they have two theme parks, Universal Studios and then Islands of Adventure. Diagon Alley, they have the Gringotts ride. You literally get it's an indoor coaster, but the only coaster part's in the beginning. You pull up, you got your 3D glasses on.
Yeah.
Characters are going back and forth. Next thing you know, someone casts a spell and boom, you drop. But you don't drop far. You go fast, but then you drop, and then before you know it, it screens because it's a lot of simulators at Universal.
Okay,
they do a lot of big screens, 3D stuff. So if you get motion sickness, you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, that'd
be
be
a lot
bad.
of motion sickness.
That'd be rough. So we share that in common.
Yes,
that's some common ground for sure. And let's get into your life story, your background. Tell us about growing up in the Garden State.
So my family, goes back to the Garden State. I was born in Overlook Hospital in Summit, New Jersey. So that's kind of like northern New Jersey. So if you were to come from, if you're listening from Lebanon, imagine heading towards like the Lehigh Valley. And then from the Lehigh Valley, it's almost like you're trying to drive to like MetLife Stadium to go see either the New York Giants or the New York Jets play. Kind of heading in that direction per se. I lived in New Jersey till I was about 9 years old. So I have an older brother. he's married with 2 children. They live in Jupiter, Florida, and I have a younger sister. She was just recently got married. Her and her husband, they live in Clark, New Jersey. So when my parents got married, I think I was maybe around 3 or 4. My mom's dad, my grandpa, died. So we took in my grandmother. She was an invalid. She had crippling arthritis.
Okay.
So she needed someone to take care of her. So we took her in. We lived in Branchburg, New Jersey, kind of near like Somerville, Bridgewater, New Jersey, not too far from like the Somerset Patriots minor league baseball team is. And anyways, when my grandmother died on Father's Day in 97, and I was 9, and she lived in the nanny wing of the house.
Okay. And
what happened was I was like scared to go down the wing, like she had her own bathroom, and my mom would have to send me in there for, that's any of us, might go into grandma's room, I need something, settle stuff or whatnot. Mm-hmm. It got to a point where my parents then said, look, we're going to take our next step here. We want to get the kids ready because my brother was 11, I was 9, my sister was 5. We have to get their education in a good place. So they ended up settling in Easton, Pennsylvania, where I currently live now. And because my mom used to do business, my parents met in the same industry. My dad is a VP of sales. He sells a lot of electrical equipment, conduit.
Okay.
He's at construction sites, things of that nature. And my mom, that's how they met years ago. My mom used to call on businesses in the Lehigh Valley. And my mom used to make your sales calls from payphones. She used to make her calls from, now Larry Holmes, 3-time world heavyweight boxing champion. He's from Easton, PA. Great guy. He had his business, and he's still in Easton to this day. See him in restaurants all the time. It's the best. And she used to make her calls from payphone by his office. So she always said to my dad, let's look at Easton. It was still close enough to their families. And my parents, if they were sitting here saying we moved out to Pennsylvania for 2 reasons, we felt like it was a great place to raise the children, and also too because Mike was deathly afraid of the nanny wing of the house where my grandmother died. We brought her home from the hospital Father's Day 97. She had pancreatic cancer. She literally died in front of us. So
wow.
I was deathly afraid. I loved my grandmother was the sweetest woman in the world, and and then from there we moved out to Pennsylvania, and I was in the 4th grade and went through elementary school, middle school, graduated from Easton Area High School, go Red Rovers back in 2006, and from there I was able to, and it's funny, despite my career, and I know you'll want to ask me more about that, it's taken me around the country, and I've kind of done different things. But I've always kind of found my way back to Easton and to the Lehigh Valley.
What was it like growing up in Lehigh Valley and, like you put it best, in an Italian-American family household?
Well, it's funny. Everyone, with the vowel on the end of my last name, yes, growing up as an Italian-American, my dad's 100% Italian. Now, my mom, she's German-Slovak. So technically I'm 50% Italian, 25% German, and 25% Slovak. But my dad's family was very overbearing in a lot of ways, but it was a loving family. I remember growing up, Sunday dinners were always the big to-do. And my dad's parents, back in their prime being alive, they used to live in Roselle, New Jersey. We used to go to Roselle every Sunday, and Sunday dinner would be around 2:30, 3 o'clock. Grandma's in the kitchen making a big pot of gravy. No, not the brown stuff.
No.
We call, in northern New Jersey, in certain aspects of the Northeast, certain Italian Americans call it sauce gravy.
So this is red sauce?
It's red sauce, but it's got the meat in it.
Oh.
It's got the meat. It's got the sausage, the meatballs.
Oh.
So that's why it's called gravy.
Okay.
See, I'm teaching you
I
something
love
here
it.
now.
Yeah, I'm learning.
So, my mom, when she married into the family, was dating my dad back. They married in 1984. My mom learned how to make gravy. She learned to make Sunday gravy. So that was always a tradition. Even still, when we moved out to Pennsylvania in the early years, Sunday dinner was the do. And if it wasn't in our house, we're going to my grandparents, or we would go to my dad has 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. So we'd go to my one uncle's house, or we go to my aunt's place, whatever. And we'd have Sunday dinner over the years. But then we'd have other traditions too. Every Christmas Eve, even to this day, it's the 7 fishes. We don't eat meat on Christmas Eve. I'm a God-fearing Catholic, so I go to church every Sunday, but then church is a must on Christmas Eve. We don't go to church Christmas Day, we go to church Christmas Eve. But then also, too, like being ingratiated into the Italian-American culture, obviously. I could probably quote to you lines from The Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, and all the other, funny, cool looking mob movies that were made over the years. And it's a big part of they were a big part of our Sunday discussions. We're big movie people. So we'd always talk like, what were the best scenes in those movies. But then also too, we would, hear stories. My grandparents would tell stories from when they were growing up, and then my dad telling stories of him growing up in Newark, New Jersey. By the chance, did you ever watch The Sopranos?
Yes.
Did you see the prequel movie, The Many Saints of Newark?
I have not.
Check it out, because it's about the riots of Newark, New Jersey. My dad grew up in Newark. They used to have, in the riots were big to do. They used to have the National Guard came in. It was a really big situation. It was, a lot of racial situations were taking place. The African American community was not happy with certain things, and there was a lot of turmoil within Newark at the time, and and Newark had a big, strong Italian American contingent there, so there was some back and forth. But like my dad, my grandfather used to tell him they lived in a 3-level house, and my grandpa used to tell my dad and his one younger brother, my Uncle John, used to say, "Don't look out the top window for fear of snipers."
What?
Oh yeah, because you had the National Guard and whatnot, and you had certain things that were happening. It was kind of crazy to hear all those stories, but outside of like some kooky stories like that, that's kind of how it was growing up. Whether I was a little kid in New Jersey, even in my early years out here in Pennsylvania. So family's important at the end of the day.
Yeah,
family's is humongous with us. My parents, even to this day, would tell my older brother, my younger sister, and I, when it's all said and done, the three of you are only going to be able to rely on each other someday, because blood is thicker than water.
Mikey, you just read my mind. I was just going to say blood is thicker than water. And really, that's who you have to fall back on, is your family, your base, and those select few close friends, that you have with you. But at the end of the day, that's who you can really count on. So I want to kind of hit on two things. Do you know, or do you think, going back through your lineage, like your great-great-grandfather or something, was maybe a mob boss or anything like that, maybe?
Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. No way. No, I did have family members involved in the mafia. I can't tell you specifically like who, but like, did you see The Irishman?
I did.
So
that
like,
I liked.
So like Russell Buffalino, he was obviously a big boss back in, you had the Gambino family in New York, and amongst the other families in New York, I had my grandfather could have been in the mafia. My dad said if he wanted to, but he elected no. He knew people in the mob.
He had connections.
He had connections, but was not involved. It's weird because even when my grandfather died back in 2004. Some mob members, some mafia people showed up at the viewing and at the funeral. And even when my grandmother, my dad's mom, a couple of years ago, there were a couple mob people that showed up. And it's funny, we have no specific ties,
right.
But we did have some distant cousins that were involved. And I remember looking at certain people. My dad looked at me and goes, connected. Just whispered, connected. I'm like, oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
People think I'm being facetious. I wish I was lying, because people, the mafia is something, I guess you shouldn't be really proud of it. I mean, I don't know, but it's, because at the end of the day, there were, who's getting whacked? You know what I mean? Like, that was the big thing, that was the big negative thing. But they did believe in family. They did want to do good things for their family.
Better their community.
Too. So there were a lot of good things, but there were some bad things.
Just how they went about it.
They went about it. So,
but, okay, if there's any mafia or mobsters listening, Mikey's a great guy. His family's phenomenal.
I was about to say, the
Sullivans Irish were good people. All right, we're just working hard here.
We're just working hard.
The story took quite a turn.
It did.
And the last thing I wanted to hit on, because it resonates with me, is that Christmas Mass the night before. We'd always go to midnight Mass here at my grandma's church. She's singing the choir and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, they'd always light the candles. And, that was just a moment to kind of hit home, because, my grandmother had a stroke, so now she's in the home. She hasn't been singing or anything, but, it still, like, brings back memories,
yes,
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm like, man, that's a small world, because I remember that too,
What they say nowadays, you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion, but nowadays, it's funny, in light of what's happening with DeMar Hamlin from the Buffalo Bills, you know, you had Dan Orlovsky on ESPN praying live on the air. I thought that was a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
And it's funny because you had people, I'm sure they didn't know how to take it, but it was a very positive reception. So, I think sometimes you got to get over the fear factor of, well, if I say it could be the bad thing, sometimes if you're strong in your conviction, you go with it. But for like your grandma, obviously, she's got a beautiful voice, she can sing, like, and that's where the family moments time in. It's a big part of what's really allowed me to, I think, have success in my career, because I've tried to really strive on the values and teachings that my family instilled upon me. Lessons I've learned from over the years. I feel like my parents, they went through a lot in their life. My older brother went through some stuff in his life, and, you learn from people. And at the end of the day, I was taught one word growing up, and I always try to instill it in everything I do, is respect.
Yeah.
Respect to me, was ingratiated in my brother, me, and my sister. My parents said, if you do anything right, you have to respect people. You may not like everybody that you deal with in your life, but if you respect them, things will go pretty well for you.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. Respect is huge. And that's what my grandfather, he's 84 now. And I don't know if you ever met him. He still comes in. He's nuts. They broke the mold with him, and he has so many one-liners and things, and he knows everybody, and everybody knows him. But when I first started selling, going out on the road with him, it was a similar thing with respect. You treat the person holding the door the same as, or the person mopping the floor is the same as the owner or the boss or the head of marketing, because at the end of the day, you don't know what connections they have or who they may know. So just, be respectful, like how you'd want to be treated.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, because like I give my credit to you. It's funny, because I know you and your dad and others here at Colortech, and even people listening that are salesmen, saleswomen, that have to go pound a phone or have to go knock on a door, or, regardless of what the item sells. I feel like yes, can you teach a salesman? I believe you can, but I do believe being a salesman is a learned behavior, because you have to have, and using it loosely, but you have to have a killer mentality.
Yeah.
You have to, because at the end of the day, you sell, you're putting food on the table for your family. I'm too nice. Like, it's funny. My dad, he's done extremely well for over 40 years as a salesman. My mom did very well as a woman back in the late 70s, in the mid to late 70s, when women were still trying to find their way. She did pretty well in her market. My brother, before, he took some turns, but he sold, he worked for my dad's company for a little bit. He sold, and he had that killer mentality. My sister's an attorney. She's an assistant prosecutor in Essex County in New Jersey. She's got a killer mentality.
Yeah.
I got like all the nice genes in the world.
I was going to say, you got them all, but
I got all the nice genes. And not that my brother give you the shirt off his back.
Right.
My sister, she's a bleeding heart despite her tough demeanor. Me, I'm just too nice.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with being a good guy.
The running gag at work is everyone says, Ventola thinks everyone's nice. Ventola gets him, when the day he gets married, he's inviting everybody to his wedding because he thinks everyone's a nice guy.
I think that will help, if it hasn't already, with your career and what you're doing. Again, going back to when I first met you at the Fightin Phils, I'm like, I think this guy is the head of Fightin. Like, he is the GM, because you have that persona about you. You carry yourself at a high level, but yet you're so nice and kind. Like when I first met you, hey, Sully, this is what you're going to do. This is where you sit. Any questions, let me know. Meanwhile, you're doing all this other stuff that, again, I didn't even know because it was my first day at the time. You know what I mean? And you had so much stress and pressure, but yet you handle it with a smile, and you're professional about it. So I want to go back to high school, college, things like that. Yeah. Did you play any sports? Because, again, I didn't know. And then where do you think the drive for baseball came from, and the love for baseball?
Well, did I play any sports growing up? So I played Little League baseball, but I retired when it went from 60 feet to 90 feet.
Okay.
I retired in Little League. I knew my baseball career. My dad says, he goes, Mike, you were smart. You just knew when you were done playing baseball. But I'll get to why my love of baseball still grew despite me retiring.
Okay.
I actually grew up playing soccer. I was I was an okay soccer player. Got to as far as 8th grade, and then it's funny. People are gonna listening are gonna say, Mike, you're an idiot." But the head coach of the varsity soccer team at my high school, he coached me and my group of buddies that I grew up playing soccer with. We were kind of just played soccer together, and we're almost like a development team, just growing. He took us in when we were 7th and 8th grade because you want to see what the next wave of talent was going to be, and he pretty much told me, in a nice as he possibly could say, you're never going to play for me at the varsity level.
Oh, dang, cutthroat.
So, yeah, I mean, which is
honest, brutally honest.
No, it's brutally honest, but maybe that should have motivated me to work harder. But what I ended up doing was, and to me, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
I started playing golf when I was 8 years old. I played varsity golf in high school.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
Played 3 years, sophomore through my senior year, and it was the time of my life. The head coach, Coach Roof, he taught my brother in middle school. So he kind of knew me a little bit. He knew my parents. So when I tried out, it was nice. It was a good process. I still had to I'd still had to submit the scores. He wasn't really cutting anybody. It's just whether was I going to play. I think I got into like 2 or 3 matches my sophomore year. I did not play as well as I should have my junior year. He was hoping for me to be more of a consistent scorer. I struggled. Golf is a very mental game. Why Tiger Woods was so good for a long time is he had the mental capacity to not choke.
Yeah.
I was a choke artist. I couldn't make the big putt.
Yeah.
Couldn't make the big putt, Sully.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I was kind of like Phil in those early Phil Tiger years, battling back and forth when Phil missed the putt, which is crazy because Phil's, in my opinion, one of the best short games in the history of the game. So I played golf, but when I went to college at Immaculata University, that's where my announcing career started, shall you say. But my love for baseball was always, since I was born. My dad, it's my dad's favorite sport. My dad played in high school. He played all the way through high school. I've seen the newspaper clippings. He was a good high school pitcher in growing up in New Jersey, and he threw a 12-6 curveball. He actually had a scout from the Cincinnati Reds that really liked him.
Oh,
but he couldn't throw. His fastball wasn't fast enough. I think he was high 80s at best, and they weren't gonna. You had to be at least in the 90s.
Right.
But he had a curveball, and they're thinking. I don't think back then they had the. Nowadays they can get guys to throw harder. I don't think they had a lot of that. Plus, then it ended up being a blessing because if he took that shot, I'm probably not sitting here right now.
Wow.
Who knows where
Isn't
I could
that
be.
crazy?
It's amazing the decisions our parents make in life that lead to us being born
here, recording this podcast.
Recording this
right
podcast where I want to be.
Yeah.
But my older brother he got all his baseball genes. So my older brother I'm not saying because he's my older brother, but he was so freaking good playing. He was a catcher. He caught junior and senior year of the varsity at Easton. Defensively, he was insane. He had a pop time of under 2 seconds from home to second base.
Yeah.
My brother had a terrible year at the plate his junior year. Senior year, though, he hit .350 and ended up getting a scholarship to Division I Fairleigh Dickinson in Teaneck, New Jersey, which is very north. If you're actually going towards Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, you have the George Washington Bridge. Teaneck is actually like a town or two before the George Washington Bridge to get into the Bronx. He ended up going there. He didn't play much his freshman year, but then he dropped out after sophomore year. My brother, it's funny, when I was younger, when he first had this situation, I was always embarrassed, but then he told me a long time ago, people ask, he goes, you tell people. My brother's a recovering heroin addict. So my brother, when he was in college, he was injured twice. He tore his rotator cuff. His career ended due to injury. He had an opportunity to get. He was going to get signed. To go play in the minors at one point, and from there things turned south. But like now, he's over 10 years sober. He's married He's married with 2 beautiful children.
Yeah.
But not to get too off track, but because of my dad and my older brother. Is how I fell in love with baseball. But I always said to myself, well, I'm not as good as them two playing it. What can I do to get involved in the game? Mm-hmm. I grew up a diehard New York Yankees fan. I remember my dad taking me to Yankee Stadium. And I remember, I grew up with, the Yankees winning the World Series 4 of those 5 years in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And I remember, we'd always listen to the Yankee game on the radio. It was John Sterling and Michael Kay. Now it's John Sterling and Susan Waldman. And I remember saying to my dad, I go, Dad, what are these announcers do? What are these announcers? He goes, they're describing the game on the radio. And from there, I always wanted to be an announcer. I'm infatuated with, as growing up through high school and being infatuated with the announcers on TV. And then it really escalated when I got to college. Going to college outside of Philadelphia, getting in tune with Phillies games for the first time, watching Harry Callis call baseball games, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time. And then, from there, I was able to, when I was in college, tell you a little bit more about how I ended up going to the school I did, but that's where the love of baseball came. Family again, Sully.
Yeah.
Family again, Sully. It's all about family.
So yeah, definitely shout out to your brother. It is phenomenal. Do you still golf?
I still golf.
You still golf.
My dad and I golfed. As we record this on January 5th, my dad and I golfed on Monday, January 2nd, because it was like 60 degrees.
It was nice.
It was nice.
True.
So
it was real nice.
I mean, the ground was kind of hard, and the greens we didn't have the best putting services, but it was fun to go out.
Well, if the Iron Pigs do anything, I know the Fightins did like a glow ball or something. I have a foursome. We definitely want to come up and support you guys, or if I need someone for a foursome,
please call me anytime.
Okay,
Man.
All right, I'm not good.
I don't care. Do you have fun?
Oh, have fun.
Then that's all that matters.
Have music, drinks.
I'm not one of those, even though I play and I want to score well, but like I was drinking beer on the course last Monday. Like to me, like I bring beer. I don't do it as much anymore, but I'll bring a cigar once in a blue moon.
Yeah, good smell cigar.
Yeah, good smell cigar.
Yeah,
See?
I can dig it. Okay,
exactly.
Mike, I didn't know that.
Hey, look, you bring your
I'm
bourbon.
I will.
Let's go.
We'll have a great time. All right.
Courtney, I was about to say, your wife is going to absolutely hate me if you go out and around me because I'm going to have to drive you home.
Oh, nice. That's sometimes those are the best, best memories sometimes.
Exactly.
So now to college life. You said Immaculata, right?
Yes.
Is that okay? Immaculata. What was that like? What did you go there for? And then kind of the transition from there to what came after, I guess.
So when I was in high school, as we all, we're trying to go. Yeah. Where do you want to go to college, right? My first choice was Temple University.
Oh yeah.
They had a really good broadcast school, and
right.
I really wanted to get in. I had good grades in high school. I was a B+ student. My grades were good enough, but I was I'm going to swear, folks. I know you've heard it, but I was a shitty SAT scorer.
Damn SAT.
The stupid SATs. I was terrible. My goodness, Stevie Wonder would have taken a better test than I would have.
That's my grandfather's one-liner all the time.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder. Hey, Grandpa, if you're listening, that one's for you, pal.
Yeah.
It was just so, because of my SATs, I couldn't get into Temple. That was my first choice out the window.
Okay.
My second choice was this little school in St. Augustine, Florida. They had sent me something in the mail my junior year of high school. I looked at it. My mom and my dad goes, why don't you apply and then you go visit? Flagler College is located in St. Augustine, Florida. They had a little broadcast division, but communications was more of a focus. Excuse me. And plus with us having our vacation place in Orlando, it's like, okay, Florida, been to Florida, love Florida. So my mom and I, we fly into Jacksonville, we do the tour. I loved it. She loved it. She calls my dad, she goes, if Michael gets in, we'll have no problem because we'll be close enough. My parents, they didn't want me to go too far because like, oh, they're going to miss me. But once again, the SAT scores, they failed me again. So I ended up getting, I opened up the mailbox again because at that point I applied to Lock Haven. Okay. I got into Lock Haven. I applied to Fairleigh Dickinson University, not the Division I athletic campus in Teaneck, but there were Division III athletics located in Madison, New Jersey, which is a really nice area of New Jersey. Actually, where the New York Jets have their complex in Florham Park, it's a lot of money, lot of money, high end that end. So I got in there, but I felt like those were like my fourth and fifth choices. I was like, so I opened up the mailbox one day, and I get this information sheet from Immaculata University, and they say, well, you apply, you get some academic money, so on and so forth. I read it. I said, okay. My parents go, Mike, what's the harm, right? You apply.
Yeah.
I applied. You go, it's just another option. I go, fair point, right? Who am I to say at this point? My top two choices were out the window. I apply. They accept me. And now my SAT scores were stinking, but I think part of it too was my grades were good, but Immaculata University used to be an all-women's school for many, many years. Used to be called Immaculata College. It's ran by the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, great group of nuns, and actually Immaculata College is the birthplace of women's college basketball.
No way.
Yes.
What?
I could take you down that tangent if you want, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So
okay, yeah, please, touch on that.
So going back to how I'm a God-fearing Catholic, so growing up, going to church every Sunday. I, being 34, was born in 1988. 1988 is what's called a Marian year. It's a year of our mother. So Jesus' mom. I apologize if anybody isn't religious. I promise it won't be too long. But for those who are religious, you'll enjoy this. So
history lesson.
Yeah, history. This is more a history lesson.
Listen up, people. Listen up.
Yeah, so when I was born, the priest who baptized me, Monsignor Paul Bokiki, was a longtime family friend because my dad's dad, my grandpa, he was a deacon in the Catholic Church for over 30 years. So he ends up baptizing me, and then he says a special blessing to Jesus' mom, the Virgin Mary, just kind of like, hey, look over him.
Yeah.
I am convinced that she had a plan for me to go there. Like I felt like it was divine divine intervention for me to go to Immaculata. And there, the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary they were awesome people, but they had a lot of lay people too, everyday folk teaching and the professors and whatnot. So I ended up majoring in communications with a minor in public relations. And, my dad, because it was funny, my mom was in Florida. I had been accepted, so my dad said, let's go and check it out. We're walking around. It's a beautiful campus, dude. Like, it's drop dead gorgeous. It's just outside of Philadelphia. It's in Malvern, Pennsylvania, and kind of near where Westchester, Paoli.
That's a nice area.
It's beautiful. And located there in Chester County. And my dad takes me, and we're walking on the campus. He's like, this is awesome. I go, yeah, this is really cool. And the admissions counselor is with us and going over all the facts. And I'm like, okay, communications, got my major. This is all good. And then she goes, we used to be an all-girls college, and we're still heavy women here. It's a 7-to-1 girl-to-guy ratio. And at that point, my dad looked at me and goes, if you don't fucking sign here, he goes, you are an idiot. At that point, I go to her, I say, let's go. So where do I sign? I did what I had to do. And 7-to-1 girl-to-guy ratio. Now, my girlfriend, we've been together over a year. Didn't meet her in college.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, but that's the ironic part. I was in college. You think I would have met my wife there?
Think. The odds.
Didn't happen. So I ended up going, and when we had the accepted students day, and I was talking to Sister Elaine Glantz, who was overseeing because they had the communication department and the English department together.
Yeah.
So she, and I kind of explained to her, and my dad did, and she goes, look, she told my dad, she goes, look, we are going to prepare your son to become an excellent speaker, an excellent writer. We're going to teach him aspects of business. We have professors here he will learn the business side of communication, public relations. And they feel like that's helped me become become successful in a lot of ways, because a lot of the radio and the TV broadcasting stuff I do, I learned on the fly.
Yeah.
Yes. Do I probably needed to go get some teaching at some point? Yes. But I had some really good mentors and good people that taught me over the years that got me into the place that I'm in now. And I ended up just getting involved in the athletic department for 4 years. I was a public address announcer for my freshman year for different sports. And then when I started doing play-by-play my junior year, they brought in internet streaming. They didn't have a radio station. So I ended up just doing internet streaming play-by-play, like a lot of local colleges and high schools do now.
Yeah.
So, and then that's how I kind of got my start in broadcasting.
Wow. So your move then from college, what was it after that? Was it, play calling for local high schools and getting paid? Because I know like our local high school here uses the local radio. They come out and set up and everything, and they'll call the plays over the radio that way. So like, what was it after college? Did you have a plan? Was it an internship with the Fightins? Was it even the Fightins? I don't even know.
It wasn't the Fightins. So what happened was, when I was my junior, in order for me to graduate, I needed to complete a full internship. So my junior year, we have a campus ministry department. So Jessica Morell, who was running the campus minister, she's a good friend. Her younger sister ended up going to college at Immaculata with me. She was 2 years after me. And her family, though they're from Pittsburgh originally, their dad years ago had moved them down to Augusta, Georgia because of business. And they had said to me, hey, there's you need an internship. There's a minor league baseball team in Augusta, Georgia called the Augusta Green Jackets. Because they knew I wanted to get into professional baseball. Yeah. And they had done some work as game day employees there. And Jessica got me in touch with her sister, because this was my junior year. So Amanda wasn't in the college just yet. She was getting ready to come in. And anyways, so she gets me in touch with the director of entertainment for the team, Stephanie Fish. And I interviewed with her, and she hired me. I was a promotions and entertainment intern, and I moved to Augusta, Georgia, and spent the summer in Augusta, Georgia. And I moved in with Jessica and Amanda's. They have an older sister, Erin. So I moved in with their mom and dad, who I met for the first time after driving down to with Amanda, driving down to Augusta, pull in the driveway, meet them for the first time. I got my suitcases and stuff, and that's how I got involved in minor league baseball. I was a 21-year-old, not paid intern, and I got to learn a lot of the day-to-day operations of minor league baseball.
Yeah.
So it was in a small town in Augusta, Georgia. I drove by the Masters every day. But they have that place guarded more than the White House.
Like Fort Knox.
Like literally,
Yeah.
you can walk by the White House and see the White House clear as day.
Yep.
With the ivy and the bushes, you can't see into the Masters. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's insane. So, but at 21 years old, I'm in Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm in the deep South. And I got this northern New Jersey accent where people are like, what the hell
going on
what's
here?
what's this
Where
guy
you
here?
from?
Yeah, exactly. But slowly I had the time
Yeah.
of my life, and I knew right then and there, I knew this is what I wanted to do. So, and then while doing my internship there, I then had the opportunity to, Stephanie, God bless her, she knew. And I had a lot of fun and success working for her, but she knew I wanted to get involved in broadcasting. She used to put me with the team broadcaster, Eric Little. I used to do games with him from time to time. I have my first tape. I was so bad.
No way, you do?
I have it on a CD. It was so friggin' bad.
Yeah, that's awesome to have,
but
though.
it was awesome to have. And then from there, when I graduated college, I then actually was a game day intern with the Phils back in 2010.
Okay, 2010.
And that was kind of my first introduction to the Phils. I had interned with during my senior year. I interned for the Danny Bonaducci morning radio show for 94 WISP. My final semester, my senior year, getting up every other day at 3:30 in the morning to drive into the city.
Oof.
5 a.m. shifts, man.
No.
Fucking awesome.
Forget that.
The stories I can tell you about Danny Bonaducci. For anybody who watched The Partridge Family, you know what I'm talking about. But and then from there, the IronPigs, I was their pre- and post-game show host back in 2011. And then I actually got my first lead broadcasting job with the Southern Illinois Miners of the Independent Frontier League in 12 and 13. And then I was hired as the voice of the Phils back in 2014.
Yeah. Wow, so you were there in 2010?
Yep.
Wow, and then you came back for 2014.
I came back.
Jeez, holy cow. And I wanted to shout out to, so if I got this right, you went down to Augusta, Georgia.
Yep.
For an internship, knowing that there's no money.
No money. I went for free.
You went for free.
Went for free.
I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, a lot of younger people would not even consider that. But yet you knew this was like a passion of yours, and it could be a good future career. So you're like, you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah, it was Sully. Well, that was 2009. So okay, it's 2023. So that was 14 years ago, right?
Yeah.
14 years ago, life was different. See, the laws were like, I can go work and not be paid for a summer, and they didn't have to worry about labor laws even to that point. Nowadays, you got to pay. If you work, you got to be paid.
Yes.
If you not, you're in big time trouble. So, but it was, and it's funny. I had some outstanding summers in minor league ball, but that first summer, I was 21 in Georgia. The amount of beer drinking I did down there was insane. Okay, but I learned a whole lot though, and God bless.
They got good food down there, Southern cooking, and sweet tea and everything.
And it was outstanding. The church I used to go to, St. Mary's on the Hill, beautiful church, Catholic church. I used to go there as much as I could. Was great, and I tell you, I told my parents. At the time, I go, I'm going to marry a Southern Belle one day.
Yeah.
Ooh. I was in love down there. I was like that. I was like the old Bugs Bunny cartoons when his eyes would become hearts and the heart pounding out of his chest. Boom, 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 boom. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So 2000, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine. Go ahead.
But 2009, an unpaid internship to, like you said, now 2014 with the Phils and getting this opportunity to be their, what do you call it, lead broadcaster?
Yeah, to be their radio voice.
The radio voice. So tell me about that. Who was the guys back then? I know a little bit about them, but yeah, I'd like to get some background on that.
So it's always funny how I got this job, and solely, and I know you've talked to other working professionals on your podcast, and you talk to other local business people, and of course friends and folks and I'm sure you hear the old phrase, it's not what you know, but who you know.
Oh, yeah. Connections.
Connections. And connections paid off in a big way. So when I was the studio host for the IronPigs back in 2011, even though and during my time a little bit with the Phils back in 2010. I worked up in the press box with the Phils back in 2010. I was doing like stats, or what they had a position called press box attendant. Tommy Viola, the media relations manager at the director at the time, he had hired me as a game day employee. He had a full-time intern, but he helped get me in as like a game day person. I pretty much worked every home game I could. And he had me do all these sorts of positions. And then I got to know their radio announcer at the time, Brian Seltzer. He would bring me on to do like some stuff during the pre-show and the post-game show. And then he let me do a couple innings with him, which was really cool. But then when I got hired by the IronPigs to be their studio host, I got to know a guy by the name of Steve Degler. Steve Degler was the longtime radio announcer for the Phils for 18 years.
Okay.
He was done after the 2008 season, because when the IronPigs started in 2008, he's been with the IronPigs since year 2, working for the Service Electric Network. They're a TV company based up in the Valley, so they do a lot of high school stuff. They do every IronPigs home game. They do every Lehigh Valley Phantoms home game. So from there, and then also too, when I was in Augusta, I got to meet some other teams like radio announcers and whatnot, just kind of meeting people, just other teams and people coming in and whatnot, whether it was in Augusta in 2009, Reading in 2010, and in Lehigh Valley in 2011. So Steve actually helped me get my first gig with the Southern Illinois Miners back in 2012. His best friend was the vice president of the team. They were looking for a radio and a PR person. I applied. They hired me. I was there for 2 years. Awesome years. My first year, called the championship. It was unbelievable. Wow. Unbelievable 2 years there. So after the 2013 season, I came back east. I do a lot of freelance work. So outside of Service Electric Network, doing high school stuff, I work for NJIT. They are a Division I college in Newark, New Jersey. And at the time, for a number of years, I worked with Wagner College in Staten Island. They were Division I. Their Division I program as well, doing women's basketball.
Okay.
I've been broadcasting women's basketball for 12 years at the Division I level. So I go to a Wagner game. I have a game, and this is in the winter of, I think at this point, this is probably late 2013, early 2014, December, January. So Wagner's playing VCU, and John Laser he was the broadcaster for VCU at the time, but he was at the time the broadcaster for the Richmond Flying Squirrels, the Giants AA team, and they play the Phils quite a bit. Yeah. So anyways, moving it along, I go up to John and said, "John, you don't know me, but I know a good friend of yours." Who's that? He goes, "Jay Burnham." Jay was a broadcaster with the Trenton Thunder. Jay and John knew and then worked together in Richmond. He goes, you know Jay. And we started talking for a while. And he goes to me, "Mike, just want to give you a heads up." He goes, "A good buddy of mine who's currently the radio announcer for the Phils, Anthony Opperman, he's stepping down." He goes, "If I were you, I would, reach out to the Phils and see if you want to apply." So, and this was like right before the basketball game, so I'm kind of excited. I get through the game.
Yeah.
I'm driving home from Staten Island, New York to Easton, Pennsylvania. I call Steve Degler. I go, "Steve," I go, "what do I do here?" He goes, "Mike, first of all, your name's kind of been mentioned already." I go, "Wow." Which is oddly enough. He goes, "Why don't you go home, send your information to Scott Hunsinger, the GM, and go from there." I apply to Scott. Scott gets back to me relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. Not that night, but I think it was like the next day or so. And he said, "Mike, thanks for reaching out. Our media PR director at the time, Eric Scarcella," he goes, "Eric will be in touch with you." Brings me in. Do a phone interview.
Yeah.
And one thing leads to the next. I get hired. I get hired to be the radio voice of the Phils. I'm jumping for joy. I'm like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world." I go from independent baseball to AA. It's a big jump.
Yeah.
And and I owe a lot of that to Steve and to John and to a lot of people to help me get to that point. And then from there, I was with the Phils for 5 years. And then they had let go Eric late during the 2016 season. They brought me on they brought me on full time, where then I became the public and media relations director and, still the lead announcer for the Phils. And that's how you and I met back in 2017.
Brought it full circle. Yeah. Holy cow. So, your time at the Phils and even now, were there any mentors or people that helped you along the way that you want to shout out? Anyone in particular, a couple people?
Yeah, so I talked briefly about Steve Degler. Steve's a good friend. I think it's funny for a guy like Steve, and I know he would he's funny. Most announcers, believe it or not, announcers realize that you're kind of there to support everybody else. You're not. It's not about you.
Right.
So I'm sure if Steve were to ever listen to this, he'd be like, "This ain't about me, kid." But no, Steve's been an outstanding mentor to me. He's still a mentor to me to this day. I call him. We talk for 45, 50 minutes at a time, and I'll bounce stuff off him, and sometimes he even bounces stuff off me. But during my time with the Art Phils, and even prior to that with Southern Illinois, and he's really been there for me. He's been a great person. Also, too, Matt Province, who was the longtime voice of the Lehigh Valley IronPigs, he went back to me for a long time.
Yeah.
He really vouched for me with my current gig at NJIT when I was leaving the Art Phils to come to the IronPigs to take over for him. He went to my current boss, Kurt Landis, said, "Look, you need to give Mike some consideration here." So those two really have gone to bat for me. But I mean, there are countless people you meet along the way. I can go back to Stephanie Fish, who hired me back in 2009. I go Tommy Viola, who hired me in 2010. We talk so much. He's now the VP of Communications for the Charlotte Knights, the AAA affiliate for the Chicago White Sox. We talk a lot. I could sit here and name other people, but those folks specifically, really helped set me up to where I am today. And, I'm grateful because even my role now here with the IronPigs, I've had to work hard. I like to kind of define myself as a classic overachiever. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I'm not the most talented person in the world. I didn't have the proper schooling to become like a lot of these sports broadcasters you see on television. But I've been fortunate enough, despite my upbringing, which is a beautiful upbringing, my parents, my brother, you guys heard me enough talk about my family now. All that comes in together, helped me set up for success. Without all those people, my family, my friends, my mentors, I'm not here today. And you know what? I've been very fortunate in my career. I had a cup of coffee with the Phillies past few years doing spring training games for them, for the Phillies, I haven't done a regular season game yet, but still, even to get a spring training game when guys are in the minor leagues 20, 30 years and they never even get a lick at spring training before even a regular season game. So, I've been very fortunate, but I owe a lot of it to, a lot of the people I mentioned. Also, too, like I said, Scott Hunsinger, the GM in Reading, he's just a good guy and really cares about his employees there. And all the folks in Reading really believed in me too. They kind of allowed me to be me. My 5 years in Reading doing radio and then, doing the PR stuff, they kind of let Mikey V be me.
Yeah.
Because I told them, I said, look, I get it. You need shit done. I'm going to get it done. But sometimes I'm a little unorthodox in how I do my stuff. And I promise you, the job will get done. And, Springy will tell you, Nelly will tell you, Tanya and them will tell you. They're like, yeah, Mikey, he's a little nuts, but he gets the job done.
Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. Of course, all those people, right, they helped you. But you're a phenomenal guy. And what you're doing and the steps that you're taking, at least from an outsider's perspective, right? I mean, I'm not the biggest baseball fan, and I don't know it as you do. I mean, it's your life, but like I said, you're motivated. You don't do anything half-ass. You're nice. You're friendly, and like you said, you get stuff done when you're asked, and you have your own way about you. But I see big things, and I see you keep moving up the ranks as far as I'm concerned, and I look to see you one day announcing a Phillies games, you know what I mean? That's where I see you being. That's just me, and maybe you'll go somewhere else to another team or something. But you're doing phenomenal, and I think it is a lot of you, and your motivation, your upbringing, and your positive mindset. That's what I think.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's I always said along the way that I'm gonna try to keep my head down, be grateful. I've been very fortunate. People some of my closest friends were at high school, college, even my girlfriend now. We've been together over a year, and some people ask, would you ever? Because not everybody can get to the big leagues. There are 30 Major League Baseball teams. You think about it, you have one play-by-play for radio, one play-by-play for TV. That's 60 jobs in the entire country.
Yeah.
You know what? I have no regrets. Like if AAA, where I'm currently at, is the farthest I will go, I have nothing to be ashamed of.
No,
I can die. I could seriously die a happy man. I don't want to go. I want to go through this life, make sure I have no regrets. So I've been very fortunate. I've had a taste of the big leagues. This past playoff run for the Phillies, getting to the World Series. The Phillies public relations team, I helped them out throughout the playoffs. So I was in the press box, as those World Series and as those NLCS and NLDS games were going on. It was the time of my life, and it was so much fun. I think of a lot of those players that are currently wearing Phillies uniforms that I got to know in AA and AAA. I rode the bus with, I got to know those guys, know their families, know their wives and girlfriends. And, it's really cool to kind of see them all, come together. So it's one of the benefits of getting a chance to do what I do. And the fans, to me, without fans, I don't have a job.
Oh, yeah.
I've been very fortunate, Sully, to meet some great fans, a lot of them at First Energy Stadium there in Reading, a lot of them as well, too, up at Coca-Cola Park in Allentown, where I'm currently at. But, even some of my other stops in Southern Illinois and even my, early years, even in Augusta, Georgia, just fans. Big part of what I do. So
and I want to do a quick shout out to your girlfriend. I don't know her first name.
Courtney.
No way. You have a Courtney too.
I have a Courtney.
Shout out to Courtney. Mikey's a great guy, and you got a Courtney too.
We're moving in together in February.
Oh,
so
congrats, man. And that's a big step.
It's a big step. So
I mean,
it's funny. I get it, you're married. Like there's not. I don't have like really much anxiety. I feel like it's just natural.
Good. That's great.
My dad goes, that means you really care about
the
this
right
girl.
one.
I go, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, my dad said, he goes, you fucked this up. He goes, you're gonna be solo your entire life. They love her.
That's
my
great.
family
That's
loves her.
huge too. With the parents and everything. How did we talk about how you all met real quick or no?
Hinge. The dating app.
Oh yeah, okay,
the dating app.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's fine. My best friend, he got married. They have a baby girl. Wow, that's great, Mikey.
It happens, I mean. I was fighting that system for a long time, thinking I can go out, but nowadays there's so much.
Oh, it's like it could be second nature. I mean, why go to a bar and waste time? You get that rejection or something when you could be on your phone, and that's great. No, seriously, that's awesome, phenomenal. So shout out to the Courtneys in our lives. Let's do that.
Absolutely
Perfect. I want to quick touch a little bit more on Fightin Phils, and then get on to the Iron Valley Pigs and the move from AA to AAA. But while you're at the Fightin Phils, was there a certain game or something, like for instance, I know my wife and I, we loved, and we still do, the hot dog vendor, Jack's, right?
Yeah.
And that song, I got a hot dog for you, hot dog for you. It's just like so catchy.
So catchy.
Yeah. So what was the moment, or what did you really enjoy there? If you could have one or two, I mean, as many as you want, really.
Well, I could sit here and tell you, probably my favorite moment on the field was probably, believe it or not, a lot of people would say, and I've answered this differently over the years. I've given a lot about the home run chase between Rhys Hoskins and Dylan Cousins back in 2016. That team got knocked out in the first round by the Trenton Thunder. It was a fun year. Rhys was unbelievable that year. Dylan Cousins they were both unbelievable that year. But I think my favorite season in Reading, sadly before your time, was the year prior in 2015. That team should have won the Eastern League Championship. We won the division, and then we faced the Binghamton. They were still the Binghamton Mets. Now they're the Rumble Ponies. We sweep them in the first round, and then we go the full distance of 5 games against the Bowie Bay Sox. We lose in Game 5. That team was from an on field. That season was so much fun. We had a great team, good players. Some fun moments on the bus rides and going to different cities, in town, all the towns throughout the Eastern League. But
yeah.
Of all the moments in Reading, I'll tell you though, my interactions with the fans, there's some great fans that I've got a chance to know. I mean, you mentioned about the hot dog. When and this goes to the fans. So Doug and Joanne Slichter, diehard fans. Their son Andy actually works. He's a game day worker for the Phils. Works up in the press box. Good dude. And Doug and Joanne, they've been season ticket holders here for forever, I feel like. Jax would always sell the hot dogs up in the radio booth.
Yeah.
In my early years, I couldn't catch them. So one day they brought in this fishing net.
No.
And from there, the fishing net sensation was born.
Yeah, I always wondered where that came from.
So because of me. And because of Doug and Joanne just giving it to me. And Jax would throw it up there. I would catch it. Crowd would go insane. And the crowd would lose their minds. I felt like, and that was funny, that was like my little way of being part of the game entertainment. I'm up in a booth, I'm talking for 3 hours, and I kind of felt like that was my way to give fans something to look at. It got to a point where it caught on, where Jax would be, the hot dog vendor, he'd be going, up the third baseline as he's coming back towards home plate. I would get out of my seat, and people outside my section or two, they would start looking up sections over, start looking towards me, looking him. They're like, "Is he going to make it?"
Let's go.
It became a thing.
Yeah. Pressure's on.
Pressure was on,
Yeah.
and sadly, poor Jackson, most of it was up to him, because if anything close, I was catching.
Yeah.
But his arm, there were moments, and he's a strong dude.
Oh,
I wouldn't want to go one-on-one with him.
No.
I would just lay down and he could pin me and be done.
Right. Yep.
And there'd be moments he'd have a sore shoulder. He'd be like, "Mike, not today." So, all right. I go, I'll play the part, but I would know, or he would, or sometimes he would airmail it over the stadium because he was so strong.
Yeah. Right.
But then also too, Sully, like, knowing you, knowing George, just the people. I feel like the people with the Phils, whether it's the front office who I've spoken glowingly about, but the fans, people of the community, that is a special place. And it will always have a special place in my heart. I've been fortunate enough now. I go back and visit. I go, try to get back to a game or so, when the Pigs are off or whatever, because I don't travel with Lehigh Valley like I did with Reading. So even when the team's on the road, I try to get down for a game. I just love them down there. Those people are fantastic. So, not only Doug and Joanne, but John Woolyoung was another season ticket holder, a good friend, sadly passed away to COVID-19 over a year ago. So, but and then just some of the other folks I got to know, Disco Briscoe, doing the Briscoe, doing the disco, and Matt Funk and his splits that he would do, and
real good people,
real good,
real good,
and the game day employees as well too. Some of the Justin Chode on the PA when he was there. Now he's our public address announcer up in Lehigh Valley. A lot of the other game day workers were just fantastic. So, that's come to things that really stand out to me during my time there.
Oh, I definitely agree. So good salt of the earth people there with the Phils. So now, how did the move come from, like I said, going from a AA to AAA? I remember hearing about, Mikey V's moving on, or he's leaving the Fightin Phils, and I was shocked myself. I'm like, I met this great guy, and now here he's going to move on. But of course, happy for you at the same time. But so how did that work out?
So full disclosure, I think this was in January of 2019. So it caught wind that one of my mentors, who I talked about, Matt Province, he was with the IronPigs from year one, 2008, through the end of the 2018 season. He was getting an opportunity to become a public relations contact for the San Diego football team in that Alliance Football League that came that one year.
Yep.
So he got that position. So they had opened it up to where they were just going to have a seasonal radio announcer and a full-time media relations contact. I sent Kurt Landis, the GM, an initial email, said, look, I'm interested, but I still have a desire to be a broadcaster as well.
Right.
And he said, Mike, thanks for, he got back to me really quickly. It was, Mike, I appreciate it, but we decided as an organization to just hire a seasonal radio announcer, but make our full-time position in media relations, just straight media relations, no on-air stuff. So I just said, thank you and good luck. And I was ready to stay in Reading. So I loved it. Like at that point, I was like, okay, I'm in a great situation here.
Right.
I go, I love everybody. Everyone, gets along with me. Like it's a beautiful situation. But then I get a call from Matt. This was like a week or so or whatever it was as it goes on. He goes, they're having a tough time finding people.
Ah, okay.
So I said, Matt, Kurt obviously doesn't want any announcer. I go, I can't be a seasonal guy. I go, I'm in my, mid to late 20s. I think at that point, I go, I need to be full-time. I need benefits. I go, I need I need medical care. You need I need dental. Like I need all that stuff. I can't take a seasonal gig.
No,
I go, I need to put some money aside. Not that I'm making $1 million in minor league baseball. And he said, well, I think what he's willing to do is that, I said, look, I'm not even saying, I get it, he doesn't want me to travel. I go, but if he's willing to, I go, I just want to have a presence on the air during every home game. I go, even if I'm not on all 9 innings, but just give me my X amount of innings per night, I'm willing to talk. He goes back to Kurt. Kurt says, and he goes, all right, give Kurt a call. Kurt's willing. So I talked to Kurt for a little bit on the phone. He goes, Mike, we had like a 5-10 minute conversation. He goes, look, come to the office. I think it was on a Friday. He goes, come to the office that Wednesday. I go, 2 hours. I'm in a 2-hour interview with him.
Whoa.
I walk out of there. Later that afternoon, he calls me back. He says, Mike, you want the job? At that point, I was like, okay. And in full disclosure, too, because I'm not sure if I'm sure, because I told everybody in Reading, like, why I left. It was an opportunity. I was in a great spot in Reading, but if there ever was one team that could have pulled, outside of the major leagues, that could have pulled me away, would have been the IronPigs, because it's in my backyard.
It's true.
It's in Allentown. I'm from Easton.
Oh, yeah.
I go, and it's AA, AAA. I go, and kind of people were saying, maybe Mike is ready for it at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was it. And that was it. I've said this publicly on any sort of interview thing I've been on. I've said it when I've been in any IronPigs. I told WFMZ TV this. I've told news outlets. I said there is nothing negative about the Phils. That place is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I would tell people, I go, you want to go work anywhere in minor league baseball? Go work for the Phils. And in addition to us here at the IronPigs, like, I think the Philadelphia Phillies have the best minor league setup in the country. Their GMs are great. Kurt's awesome. Scott's awesome. John Ricciuti, who's the GM for the Jersey Shore Blue Claws, they're the Phillies high A team. They're great. Even the team down in Clearwater, where the Phillies have their spring training, the Clearwater Threshers. You can't go wrong, because the Phillies have an outstanding belief in their minor league system, and they believe in their minor league front offices.
Yeah.
They have ownership in all these teams, so some more than others. So for me, I'm like, I don't want to leave the Phillies. And I grew up a diehard Yankee fan. Like, my dad goes, "Would you go work?" I go, "No, I have no desire to go work for any of the Yankee affiliates." I go, "No." I go, I'm spoiled. The Phillies spoiled me. They flat out spoiled me.
They took care of it.
And they took good care of me. I go, and not just the minor league teams, not just Scott Hunsinger and Kurt Landis and the Phils and the IronPigs, but like every time I've gone to spring training in Philadelphia or in Clearwater, or go to a Philly and see the Philly people, they don't treat me like I'm some schlub. Like, they accept me as one of their own. Yeah. And I go, how do I say no to that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what's so special about why I've been so fortunate. It's why I'm so grateful. Why I've been able to do what I've been able to do.
So your move then to the IronPigs, do you have because I wanted to ask, what's a recent favorite achievement, something that you've done recently?
Oh, with the IronPigs? Oh, boy. Ooh,
yeah.
That's a good one. Because it's funny, we've done a lot. We've done some kooky things at Coca-Cola Park. I'm trying to think something. I know we started our own podcast now, Pig Pod. That's fun. It's been fun. It's been fun. We kind of interviewed.
Plug it for sure.
Yeah, Pig Pod started as just a way to kind of talk about the IronPigs brand, but we interview guests, whether it's Phillies people, players, Phillies front office people, or just people that are sponsors with the IronPigs or some front office members. It's really cool. Listen. Spotify. We also do a video portion on YouTube as well too. Go to the IronPigs YouTube page. We have a whole set and everything. It's really awesome, Sully. But I'm trying to think. You know what? I think, believe it or not, of all the things I've been really grateful for, and it's kind of tied in between the Pigs and the Phils. Watching my broadcast partner, he's become a really good friend, Pat McCarthy. Mm-hmm. He's been now really getting close to following his dad's footsteps. He's been an opportunity to call some games up with the Phillies this past year. I hired him back in 2017 to be one of my assistants. I hired he and Greg Caserta back in 2017. He then left to go to the Pigs in 18, and then I came back, to the Pigs in 19, and we've been together ever since. And kind of helping mentor him, work with him has been really cool for me. Greg had an opportunity to do 2 games for the New York Mets a season ago.
Yeah.
So watching both of my, the guys I've worked with get big league opportunities is really special.
That's awesome.
I said, I go, the students outdid the master. I said, that's okay. But, and also too, the IronPigs, after my first season there, we got the Larry McPhail Award, the top entertainment club in all of minor league baseball. It was kind of cool to really see our organization get that award. The IronPigs, they do a great job in entertaining fans. It's like the Phils do a great job entertaining.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's
a big part of it.
It's the biggest part of minor league baseball is putting butts in seats and how you keep fans coming back each night.
That's it. So for all the listeners out there, it's Pig Pod. If you like the Phils and you love the Phillies, take a listen to it. Who came up with that name? Is that something you came up with?
It was a combo. I think myself and a couple of my other coworkers, we were kind of sitting one day. Yeah, we'll call it Pig Pod, right? Pig Pod.
Yeah,
you know,
it's got a ring to it.
It's got a little ring to it. It's fun.
So check that out, everyone. So now, Mikey, what's I want to hit on a couple more questions.
Yeah,
and then,
please.
Your daily routine. What's that like now with the IronPigs? You know, let's say a game day daily routine. What do you do? What does it look like for those that are listening? Maybe want to get into, you know, what you're doing, broadcasting, things like that.
So, if we have a 7:05 game, I'll come in 8:30 in the morning. I will get in. First thing I will do is get upstairs to the press box where my office is. I put together what are called stat packs, just packets of statistical information, get them printed for the coaches, the broadcasters, and then I actually just email a PDF version for our press when I send out my game notes. I run those downstairs at the clubhouse, put them on the coaches' desks, so then they're not asking for it when they come in around lunchtime. I just get it done first thing in the morning. Then I'll go back upstairs, start working on my press notes. So I'm going to work on my game notes. It's all biographical, trends, streaks, statistical information for the other team's broadcasters, the media. I send them out to, you know, folks in Philly. And it works, you know, and even send it to the PR guys in Philly, the broadcasters with the Phillies, just so it kind of keeps folks up to date with what's going on with the IronPigs. Then from there, we have our online program, porkillustrated.com, you know, make sure that's up to speed. I work with our social media person, making sure everything's laid out, good to go for that. I eat lunch. Then it's once the team starts rolling and getting ready for the press to start coming in, doing interviews. So getting interviews set up with writers, Service Electric. They have a pre-show that they do that I co-host with. So it's doing interviews there. And then also too, getting lineups, getting them typed up, distributed. And then I'm trying to think what else, if there's any credential requests, you know, press that don't come, you know, get them filled out.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then after that, it's try to find some, in doing all that too, it's prepping for the broadcast as well too, reading up on stuff. I'll get the other team's notes and rosters, get them printed out. I don't have an intern. I do it all myself, by the way.
Wow.
And then get the lineups distributed downstairs. And then before you know it, it'll be, you know, go down, watch a little BP, kind of be around. If any other press wants to talk to guys after BP, get that set up. Then I go back upstairs, make sure the lineups are good to go, get them out, as I said. And then it's try to get a bite to eat. And then before you know it, it's I get out to we have a tiki terrace out in left field. It's where myself and the one announcer from Service Electric, we host the pre-show on TV. It's a 30-minute live show.
Yeah.
So I do that for 30 minutes, get back upstairs for first pitch, and then it's game time.
Wow.
And then sometimes when I'm not in the booth I'm only in the booth for a handful of innings per night. When I'm not in the booth, I'm sometimes helping out getting content for social media. But every now and then, too, they actually have me involved in game entertainment. I'm hosting like an in-between inning game or something like that. Then once the game is done, write my game recap, get box scores out, distributed. And then, you know, if there's any official scoring disputes, deal with that. Then once my game recap is done, I head home for the night. Sometimes that's if it's a 7:05, hopefully done by 10:05, 10:30. I'm out of there by 11:30, the latest.
So there's some long days.
Long days.
But I would say at the same time, it's rewarding looking at it from, excuse me, my position when I was doing the Phils freelancing as a photographer, and I think you would agree, you can't get better seats. You know, being a part of, there we go, being a photographer, being a part of the team, broadcast, things like that. Sure, it's long days, but you're there. You're part of if you are a part of the team, you know? Yeah,
and it is. And I tell people, I go, look, I think what's the coolest thing about the minor leagues is that, you know, whether you're a fan, a front office member, a game day employee, exactly, you feel like you have a stake in what's going on. Because that's how I think a lot of fans nowadays, and how, especially sports, even life now more than, you look on Twitter, you look on everything, now more than ever, people want to feel like they're a part of something.
Oh, yes.
And people want to feel like they have they've had a purpose, whether it's an impact in, you know, a political, you know, election, or, you know, or obviously or something happening at work, or, you know, going to a sporting event. You know, I cheered a little louder, you know, that player struck out, or that, you know, or that quarterback threw an interception in the key moment. You know, I helped it. That's how people feel nowadays. And, you know, and we get a front row of that at the minor league level because stadiums are smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Players are interacting more with fans than at the major league level. So it's really cool to witness.
What would you say is your passion?
When you sent me that question, I think about that because that can mean so many different things. Like, what is my passion? And, kind of boiling it down to a quote, and in a sense of because I'm passionate about life and passionate about the things I do and the people I love and the people I interact with. There was a movie that came out in the 90s called The Bronx Tale, with Chaz Palminteri. And I can tell you what the movie's about, but there's a line from that movie that has stuck with me. It's actually my mantra to life. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent, and the choices you make will shape your life forever. That to me is the most profound thing that's out there, because we are all given us some sort of talent in life. Mm-hmm. And the saddest thing we can never do is waste that talent. Only you know what your talent is. So for me, my passion is to never waste that talent and be as all-purposeful as a human being as I possibly can be. Being as nice as I could, to be courteous, to be kind, to be there. I've had a lot of young announcers that reach out to me. I've tried to give them good advice, do what I can to help steer them in certain directions. People have mentored for me.
Yeah.
I'm taking a passion now to try to help those that want to get into this industry. I haven't had an unorthodox way of getting to where I've gotten to, so I can tell people, say, look, you can get there. I didn't have the clearest route. I had to take some detours. I needed a lot of people's help, but I got there. And I think that for me is what my passion is, to, at the end of the day, to be there for others and to, make sure that I'm using my God-given ability to do that for people.
Yeah, a great line, a great quote. Now I'm going to hit you with another one. What motivates you?
I think what motivates me every day, my loved ones. I think at the end of the day, I know my parents, my brother, my sister, my girlfriend, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my friends. One thing that I think they all can say about me is that I give it my all each and every day. And I think that is what that's what motivates me, is knowing that, because I don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have been so supportive for me. So what motivates me is knowing that if I give it my all and do what's necessary, because this is the love I have for them, and I know the love they have for me. So
yeah.
So that's what motivates me.
Okay. If you had not said family, I kind of would have been shocked. I would have been taken back a little bit, because I think that's a big part of your life. So we're kind of wrapping it up here, but I wanted to, because it's been on my mind since you mentioned it. Immaculata, you had mentioned, was where women's basketball started. Did we hit on that? And I'm sorry if you did.
No, it didn't. So what happened was, and women's basketball had been around for years and years, but it really wasn't on the map per se. So
okay.
You had Kathy Rush, who is in the Hall of Fame. She was the head coach. Her husband at the time was an NBA official back in the late 60s and in the early 70s. And these women at Immaculata College, where they didn't even have uniforms, they wore tunics. They wore these tunics with these skirts. These women back in 1972, 73, into the 70s, they were the first team to win 3 consecutive AIAW championships, which is like now you have the NCAA. They got to play the first televised women's college basketball game. They got to play overseas for the first time.
Holy cow.
As a women's college basketball team. And those championship teams, and they have some outstanding players, and they had players that had gone on to be outstanding coaches at the Division I level. Reading Muth Portland was a long-time women's basketball coach at Penn State. Marianne Stanley, she coached in the WNBA. She's coached at the top level, the collegiate level. Teresa Grentz, now her married name, just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. She coached at Rutgers, coached at the University of Illinois, coached the women's national team. Mm-hmm. Got them to, I think, a bronze when she coached them. So, and there were some other players, and Kathy Rush herself, as I said, a Hall of Fame coach. What put them into prominence is that they were the only school in the entire country mm-hmm. that was adversely affected by Title IX. Of course, Title IX with being the, making sure women had the same, if you have the same amount of men's sports, you have the same amount of women's sports, right. You have to have, it gave women, making sure, and deservedly so, making sure that women had the same playing field as they did for the men. So then they were, at the time, like the Dukes, the Tennessees of college basketball on the women's side, but then they couldn't compete anymore because they were ran by the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I mean, they had no money. The sisters are they don't work for money. They rely on church donations and and they had to rely on donations by alumni at the time to keep that college afloat. It was, and I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of those women, outstanding women, Phil Martelli, who was a longtime head coach at St. Joe's. His wife, Judy Martelli, played on those championship teams as well. So,
wow, right here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
That's a pretty neat part of history there. Mikey, to kind of wrap it up, how can our listeners connect with you, connect with the Iron Pigs, and then follow along on your journey?
So if you want to follow me, I'm a big Twitter guy. So give me a follow at Venting Daily. I don't vent daily as much as I used to, but at Venting Daily. You can also find me on Facebook at Mike Ventola. I don't go on Facebook as much anymore, but if you want to send a note, say hello, please be happy as well. I'm on Instagram as well too at Mike Ventola. And then you can follow me at the Iron Pigs as well too. Get the IronPigsBaseball.com. You can follow the Iron Pigs on Twitter at IronPigs. Lehigh Valley IronPigs on Facebook as well. And like I said, our podcast, Pig Pod, be sure to check it out on Spotify and as well as YouTube as well. If you go to the Lehigh Valley IronPigs YouTube page, you'll see the episodes of Pig Pod right there. So that's how you're going to follow me along on my journey. So
excellent. And for all the listeners out there, before we close out, I always like to ask if there's anything else you'd like to say, but I want, if you're cool with it, to do a couple impersonations. And this will be the first time on the American Grown podcast.
Wow.
No pressure.
I don't want to call myself an impressionist, but I think, when you sit around and you're hanging out with your friends or whatnot, you like to be some fun. So, I've been very fortunate enough to work on some key voices over there. One is a very prominent figure nowadays, one that I always like to have fun because it's the easiest one for me to do is President Donald J. Trump. Austin Sullivan, I had a great time talking with you. Mike Ventola had a fantastic time. He thinks you're a great guy. You're a tremendous man. It's great to see you. It's great to be here. I can see why America grown, and that's the way I have to be. America first. Make America great again.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, man. Any others you want to throw out there?
I could do like cartoon characters like anybody else can. I could do a little Mickey Mouse. Oh, boy. Huh?
That was really good. Your Trump's good too.
Every now and then I'd like to do a little Popeye.
Me sleepy and I gotta keep an eye on Pluto. Yeah, boy.
Like some cool stuff like that too. I tried to do a little President Barack Obama. Look, here's the deal. My wife Michelle and I, had a great time talking to you, Austin Sullivan. So I used to do George W. Bush, used to do John Madden, can't do those anymore.
Okay.
They fell out of favor. So, but
yeah, they're amazing. So maybe if heaven forbid the broadcasting career doesn't work out, maybe some voice acting, maybe some Disney. I mean, holy cow!
I always said I would like to try to do a little voice acting from time to time, but it's hard. You think it's easy? It's hard. You got to get an agent, and then from there, that you have to be like, well, the agent sits there, go, show me what you could do. Build a bicycle. What's the line from Wedding Crashers? Make me a bicycle, clown.
Right.
That's what I say. Yeah. Make me an impression. Do me an impression, clown.
With the balloons and everything. Mikey, I'm like I said, thank you so much for coming here and joining me. I'm going to close it out. If there's anything else you'd like to. All right, perfect.
I'm good.
Yeah, excellent. Mike Ventola on the American Grown podcast in the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, my brother.
Awesome, Mikey. Thank you, man. Seriously. To see photos of today's guests and more content, just search American Grown Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to be a featured guest on the podcast, please direct message or email Austin at AmericanGrownPod@gmail.com.